There are two kinds of people in this world, those who have seen the Adult Swim show Rick and Morty and those who haven't. Those who have can't get enough of it and think it's absolutely the funniest and most brilliant thing ever made, and those who haven't are probably annoyed by those who won't shut up about it. Admittedly, upon first viewing, it can come off as one of many comedic animated TV shows vying for your attention, but over time, the immense quality of Rick and Morty gradually becomes more apparent the longer you watch it, meaning that it's only a matter of time before a new viewer becomes one of us, an obsessive who wishes they could be cryogenically frozen during the massive lulls between seasons. What makes it so great is that it's just as incredibly stupid and juvenile as it is expertly crafted, genuinely intelligent, and sometimes even surprisingly heartfelt. It's a show that dives headfirst into mentally taxing concepts like alternate realities, but at the same time isn't above dropping a fart joke for laughs. This dichotomy between the cerebral and the infantile is what gives Rick and Morty its unique brand of humor and makes it stand out amongst the competition. Simply put, it laughs at the absurdity of our fleeting and purposeless existence, and does so with inventive conceptual storytelling, great world building, clever gags, and yes, even good character development. But amidst all that greatness, what elevates Rick and Morty even more is its ability to perfectly balance these ambitions within the framework of its rather limited sitcom structure. Like similarly structured shows such as The Simpsons or Family Guy, Rick and Morty has to, by its very nature, maintain some semblance of status quo. As with most sitcoms, the show is about a traditional American family consisting of a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother, and a grandfather. And for 20 minutes, a viewer gets to watch them get into humorous situations before things go back to normal by the episode's end, allowing for another new wacky situation to start up again in the next episode. It's a tried and true formula because it works within the domain of television, providing audiences with consistently entertaining characters and a sense of routine. This is the opposite of shows like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, which prioritize narrative momentum and a constant state of change to keep the viewer invested. Instead, sitcoms prioritize reliability and ease of consumption. Episodes are typically written in a vacuum, and the stories begin and end within a single episode. Not only does this formula make it easier for new viewers to drop in without having seen any prior episodes, but it also allows these types of shows to potentially go on forever as long as there's the demand for it. Rick and Morty intentionally merges the sitcom structure with mind-bending high-concept science fiction for a comedic effect, and for the first few episodes of the first season, it's about what you'd expect, albeit exceptionally well done. But then we get to episode 6, Rick Potion number 9, where Morty misguidedly asks Rick to formulate a love potion for him so that he can get his crush Jessica to fall in love with him, only for it to backfire and eventually turn the entire human population into grotesque monstrosities, or Cronenbergs as Rick calls them. With no solution in sight, Rick and Morty transport themselves into an alternate reality where things are normal and they are both dead, and seamlessly take their place. Episode 6 is considered a game changer by many, and the reason is because it not only brings multiverse theory into the show, but because we get to see Morty's visceral reaction to this revelation. It screws with his mind and messes with his sense of purpose. The episode ends with him recoiling into his head and coming to terms with what it means. It's incredibly moving, and for the first time the show demonstrates its ability to completely destroy the status quo without actually doing so, which it cleverly accomplishes with the multiverse reveal, and then even makes a meta joke about.
It's not like we can do this every week anyways. We get 3 or 4 more of these tops.
This is merely the first and perhaps best example of how Rick and Morty is able to perfectly balance the need for stability and consistency with world building and a growing sense of continuity. After this, it became apparent that Justin Roiland, Dan Harmon, and the writers weren't going to be content with just having Rick and Morty go on adventures with no consequences, and thus a declaration that they also weren't content with it being a typical animated sitcom. Instead, Rick and Morty goes out of its way to maintain a loose sense of continuity. The consequences of each episode aren't immediately forgotten. What happens in a given episode is remembered by the characters, and plot points can be brought back to the forefront many episodes down the line. This is especially effective in Rick and Morty because the plot to your average episode can be intense, complex, multi-layered, and absolutely insane. It would be all too easy and even understandable for this show to start each episode from a neutral place. But Rick and Morty goes the extra mile by following through with its crazy concepts and plot developments, building a chain of cause and effect that leaves lasting impacts on the characters. But Rick and Morty is still first and foremost a cartoon sitcom, so while it can and often does go nuts with its storylines, it can't rock the boat too much for risk of sinking the ship entirely. So even though Morty is fundamentally changed by the experiences of turning his world into Cronenberg's, you wouldn't immediately know it in the following episodes. For the most part, on the outside, Morty seems like the same person he was prior to that incident, but then every once in a while, Morty will say something and act a certain way that earlier season Morty wouldn't. And so while laughing at something funny Morty says or does, a keen-eyed viewer might pick up on what Morty's actions say about his development as a character, which both makes it funnier and makes the show deeper, a legitimate piece of storytelling instead of a mere vehicle with which to spew jokes. Thus you have the formula for Rick and Morty. It constantly breaks the sitcom formula with its outlandishly funny plots, resolves them through some ingenious means that allows the characters to return to normalcy, and then allows the characters to remember and evolve from the experiences they go through, creating a loose sense of continuity without being beholden to it. And no episode demonstrates this better than the season 3 premiere, the Rickshank Rickdemption. Both this and the preceding episode, the season 2 finale, The Wedding Squanchers, rely heavily on continuity to drive the stories, while also exploring the motivations of the characters. Birdperson and Tammy returned again, this time summoning the Smiths to attend their wedding. What begins as a seemingly low-stakes episode in an instant turns into another game changer. Birdperson is assassinated, and the Smiths are on the run and can't go back to Earth, leaving them no choice but to look for a new planet outside of the Galactic Federation's grasp. Eventually, Rick appears to have a change of heart after hearing his family fight over him, and in a surprise act of selflessness, he turns himself in on the condition that his family be allowed to return to Earth. And that's how season 2 ended, with Rick in prison and the Earth under control of the Galactic Federation. This development was surprisingly emotional and appeared to move the show in a new direction. It was a huge cliffhanger, which made the wait for season 3 even more unbearable. As expected, the season 3 premiere picks up from the finale, and does so in an unexpectedly compelling and hilarious way. The episode wastes no time being clever, as it opens with the whole family dining together at a restaurant, talking about how Rick escaped from prison. This is great because it briefly makes the viewer think that the show just casually wrote off the cliffhanger of the last season, but is quickly revealed to be a fake out, and Rick is still in prison. He's just being mentally interrogated by the Galactic Federation. The episode then pulls another fast one on us, making us think that Rick's backstory is being revealed, though veteran viewers were automatically suspect of this, and it turns out they were correct to be suspect, as Rick crafted a fake backstory so that I could hack his way out of the mind interrogation program. But at the same time, it's very possible that Rick sprinkled in some truths to tell the story. We just don't know which parts are true. This keeps Rick's backstory a secret while also exploring it to some degree, thus wisely maintaining the mystery. It is fantastic writing. Meanwhile, the Smiths are living on Earth under Federation control. Summer wants to break Rick out of prison, while Morty is fine leaving him there. This shows how both Morty and Summer have grown as characters. Summer is desperate to see her grandpa again, but that's because she hasn't spent as much time with Rick as Morty has. More so than Summer, he has seen how selfish and sociopathic Rick can be, and doesn't want Summer to look up to Rick only to be disappointed like he was. This leads into a callback to Rick Potion number 9, as Summer remembers that Rick and Morty's bodies are buried in the backyard. Morty even takes Summer back to his original universe, and we get to see how Morty's family has adjusted to the Cronenberg world, and it's not pretty. It's another strong reminder that there are consequences to the adventures Rick and Morty go on. The Council of Ricks make a return as well, and while they send out SEAL Team Ricks to take out Rick C-137, he is busy hopping from body to body, making his way up the command chain until he makes it into the control room of the Citadel, where with the push of a few buttons, he transports the Citadel into the Federation prison, and with the push of a few more buttons, collapses the entire Galactic Federation. And just like that, both the Citadel of Ricks and the Galactic Federation, staples of the series since season 1, are completely wiped out. Rick, Summer, and Morty make it back home, and everything is back to normal once again. Well, except one thing. Beth and Jerry are getting a divorce. The episode then ends with yet another callback, this time to the final scene from the pilot, and it's revealed that all of this was just an elaborate scheme by Rick to get back at Jerry for threatening to turn him in. Yep, that heartfelt ending of the second season was really just one step in Rick's plan to eliminate his enemies. He wasn't being selfless, he wasn't doing what was right for the family, everything he did was to benefit himself. It's the Rickest thing Rick could do, and in hindsight seems fairly obvious. The season 3 premiere is one of the busiest, most fast-paced, and well-written episodes of Rick and Morty. It's a perfect example of how the show was able to both maintain the status quo and push the narrative forward, all while developing its world and characters. In a mere 20 minutes, it is somehow able to simultaneously change so much while changing so little, all purely through Rick's ingenuity, and in a way that doesn't feel forced or contrived. And to top it all off, Beth and Jerry's relationship finally enters a new stage with their divorce, which will change the dynamics of the Smith family. So much was accomplished in this one episode that it's almost hard to wrap your head around, and all while maintaining the same level of comedic quality we've come to expect from Rick and Morty. It is the encapsulation of what makes Rick and Morty such a consistently entertaining, hilarious, and clever show. An episode where all the various elements work in perfect harmony together to create what just might be the best episode of Rick and Morty up until this point, which bodes well for the rest of the third season. There's just nothing else quite like it on television.